This meeting is being recorded.
Greetings. This transmission is coming to you from the eve of the Southern Hemisphere's winter solstice, also known as the 21st of June 2021. This message is coming to you with a sense of urgency, void of fear. I believe that every single Australian needs to know this. All right. Okay, I know my warriors are going to listen. There's maybe going to be shared with people that are sitting on the fence, that maybe are asking questions. And then there's a whole load of people that just don't want to know. And they're never going to want to know. I am curious, and actually maybe right underneath, what do you think the percentage is? I thought maybe it's like 1% are like really awake, but like 1% of 7 billion people, that's still quite a lot of people, you know. And then I was going to like maybe between 5 and 10% people were kind of like starting to maybe, you know, like wake up, maybe ask questions. And then it'd be like 95% of the population just want to go to work, come home, watch a bit of telly, have a few beers, go to the football, I don't know. So this is the combined work. This is my disclaimer. This is just my opinion, okay? I know nothing. I'm just regurgitating information that I've learnt. And maybe see this message as a needle and a thread that binds information together. There are a lot of people that have been involved with the gathering of this information. I'm going to keep this really nameless because right now this is not about ego. This is about people coming together and people uniting. And let this be about knowing who your real enemy is. We all know that this doesn't make sense, right? But it does make sense when you know the agenda. So when you learn the agenda, you realize it's pretty dark and you don't want to focus on that. You want to focus on the solutions and the rebuild. So this is just the conglomeration of quite a few people's work. It's taken them a long time to figure out how they've done it. And for many people, they have probably heard that the Australian government are a private business. Well, what does that mean? You know, when you learn that we have not had a government since the 14th of February 1966 and that we have been without governance for 55 years, you start to kind of go, well, who are they? And how have they gotten away with it? And why are they still doing, like, why have the police not gone and arrested? Oh, that's right, they're all involved. Oh, okay. So the whole system's really broken. And for those at the very top that are aware of what's going on, may they hang by the neck till they're dead. Like, seriously. It is treason. And then there's probably a whole lot of people in between that just are just good people caught in a bad situation. I think we've heard that one before, haven't we? And I would say that what they've done is pure genius if it wasn't so evil. So let us be really clear. There is a line being drawn right now. Now is the time. And look, I know I can't focus on my own stuff until this stuff is sorted out, in a way. It's what it feels like for me. And I know in my lived experience, a lot of people are feeling very defeated, are very exhausted, very fed up, very, I can't, why fight? It's just happening. Just, you know. But it's not in me to stop. I don't know. If you're listening to this, congratulations. Your soul has a front row seat to the greatest show of, like, I don't know, the last couple of thousand years. So we're ending up a 2,600 year cycle, a 1,500 year cycle, and a 150 year cycle. So it's a bit bumpy. And so look at this as just a sharpening of your tools, you know, like more knowledge. We're all on the journey together. We're all just different layers, and it takes a lot of work. I know it does. But it's like think of it like this. You know, like, when you put on a lot of weight, you know how hard it is to lose the weight, but it's kind of easy to maintain it? Think of it like that, right? Think of it like we've gotten really lazy with our self-governance. They've all done it for us, and now we've got to learn how to do it. And it's quite a bit of work, because really we should have been learning this from when we were really young, and we haven't been. So it does require a bit of work. And I know everyone just wants someone to just fix things, but there's no one coming to rescue us. We have to do this ourselves. Anyway, please share this information as you can, if you can. I think this is really important. This is why it's important that this kind of goes out now, because I know people that have been working on this stuff for 20 years and they've only just figured everything out in the last year or so. So, who are these people? All right, so I've digested a load of information, and I'm trying to do like a picture book to make it really easy. So just another way of explaining it to join the dots. There's still more. Like, this goes back a really long way. It goes back. For South Australia, there are documents from 1836 where they've just removed words from documents. Then in the late 1880s, in Parliament in South Australia, they just removed entire documents from Parliament. So I'm going to try and show you where they've changed words, where they've changed the seal, what is a line of authority. Anyway, I'm going to turn the screen around. So let me... share. There we go. Okay. So it's in 3 sheets, this mind map. So I'm trying to do it more. If you can imagine, this is at the top in the middle, and then I've got 2 sheets underneath, and they're going to be bottom left and bottom right. So when we're at school, we learn that we write our name on the left-hand side of the page, and we sign our name down the bottom. Yeah, no, I'm not meant to do that. It's meant to be on the right-hand side of the page, and sign your name on the right side. So, right. So the Kingdom of Great Britain, okay? And look, we could go back in history, but I only went as far back as Charles, but really you should go as far back as James, but then it turns it into something else. And this is just about Australian situation. So we are under the Kingdom of Great Britain. I've called this the hijacking of Australia. Contract under seal. Now, this is a really, really important saying, okay? So, all right, Charles I, 1625, 1649. Now, his wife brought in bishops into England, which kind of pushed out the Church of England, brought in the Anglican Church. We have the Anglican Church in Australia. There is no Church of England here. Charles II, 1649, 1651. England, Scotland and Ireland. That was the Kingdom of Great Britain. It was the House of Saxe, Coburg, Gotha. It was the House of Hanover, and it swapped over to them around about the George time. So you've got James II. In between Charles II and James II, you've got military rule. I'm not going to go into that too much. Okay, 1611, King James Bible. That's kind of important. And then you've got all these kingdoms down here. George III, 1716, 1820, unified the kingdoms. George IV, William IV, he was the last penultimate monarch. Victoria. Now, Victoria was smart enough to get the seals to each of the individual states or colonies of Australia. So there are seals for each colony, not one for the Commonwealth. So, holder of the Companies Act, 1868. George V, sealed to the Constitution Act, 1900, UK. Judicial Committee Act, 1833. Now, around here, Edward abdicated for Wallace Simpson, and his brother took the throne, George. That was Elizabeth's father, and he died. So, the Great Royal Seal. So, Queen, II. Now, it's all written in Roman, right? See that? There's no little spikes on the top. It's not like a small it's like a, it's a full one. So it's often, you can see it's written in our legislation like this with the little crosses on the top. That's Latin, that's something else. Queen, defender of the faith. So the whole deal has been a Christian Catholic kind of argument, hasn't it? And she was married to Philip, he was a Catholic. Well, he's died now. So Queen is back on the throne. She was in Parliament, 3 or 4 weeks ago. Her titular title is Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, of the United Kingdom, Northern Ireland, and her other realms and territories, head of the Commonwealth, defender of the faith. Now, anytime you refer to the Queen officially, you refer to her like that, right? Always in legislation, in documents, that is her title. She's the defender of the faith. She holds the great royal seal to the land of Australia. Actually, from Victoria, when she held all the individual seals to each state, right? She took the imperial crown, the Christian crown, on television in 1952, but secretly, behind the doors, she took her oath to the St. Edward's crown, a Catholic crown, because she was married to a Catholic. To go and do more history back here with the Vatican and stuff. Her title is not, right? Let me make this really clear. In all of the legislation that is written, if anywhere it is written, Her Majesty, Queen of Australia, Head of the Commonwealth, that is not her title. That is a foreign entity. That's been made up. So she's held to the Companies Act of 1862. It is also, the Great Royal Seal is also held to the Great Seal Act of 1884 and 1888. She is also held to the Royal Style and Titles Act of 1959, and the seal looks like that. She's held to the Partnership Act of 1890. The seal looks like that. There was a constitution written in 1867, around here, after George. Queensland sits under that Constitution Act. Australia was referred to as New Holland and New Wales. New Holland was the left-hand side, or Western Australia, and New Wales was like the right-hand side. It was also referred to as Van Diemen's Land. There was an act called the Wastelands Act of 1859 when they first settled, where they would divide off parcels of land to allocate usage. So Queensland was the Queen's land. Now, there has been variations of her name since she's been in rule. They look like, so Elizabeth II means Regina. Regina it's pronounced. Elizabeth with this 2 numeral thing is not this person here. This is a company. This person here, Elizabeth II, that's Latin. That's not this person here. And Elizabeth A, this one, Regina, that is not her either. Letters patent, well, it's held to the 1862, the Companies Act, and the Royal Charter of UK. Letters patent is a document that is royal assented, that determines who our judges can be in our courts. It's a really important document. Back then, there were no states, there were federations. There were 6 colonies, and they were all rivals to each other. So when Victoria passed away, well, before then actually, they had written the Constitution. She had the seals to the land. They were getting ready for federation. So federation is the joining where they sort of got sick of, like, charging tolls between the states or the colonies. There was mining going on, cannibalism in Cooktown, the gold rushes, a whole lot of things going on. In 1836, there was words removed from documents in South Australia. Each state's really different. Let me move this out of the way. So, we have So there's federation at the top. So they wrote a constitution. Okay, let's go. This is the good side of government, all right? So government are representatives of the people. They are simply there to administer things like fixing the roads, intervening for fires, and if people are caused harm. They're not here to intervene in your lives. The Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act of 1900 was written. It's the base constitution. There were things happening prior to this that would lead me to believe that what has gone on was planned way before this constitution was written. The 1867 constitution is pretty favoured to people of intellect and quite dismissive of people that don't have the intellect to navigate their own vessels, put it that way. So if you think of the left side as the debtor, the administrator, the right side as the creditor, as that doesn't look right. There we go. The executrix, executor, the beneficiary. Now, in 1900, they wrote another constitution within a year. They made 114 changes and 112 deletions. They did this without a vote. That's the 1901 Commonwealth Australia Constitution. I think they need to stick to this one. There was changes from the start. If we're going to talk about votes, then we go back to, go back to the beginning. Then they wrote Acts Interpretation. That's like legislation to understand the Constitution. Okay. Land held to state, not Commonwealth. Letters patent in 1900. So they've got these seals on them, right? They were all meant to look like that, like unicorn and a lion. We've got the Partnership Act, and then we've got the Wastelands Act. So they were in pounds and shillings. There's also an act called Creative Commons, 1890. Again, same seal. It was the Queen's lands under the Criminal Code Act of 1899, same seal. So that's what makes it legit, right? The Queen goes, yeah. So Queen's boss, she owns the seal to the land. She has to say yay or nay. She says yay or nay to the governor and the letters patent. So here's her seal. So it is an executive council. So the Queen, this is how it's meant to be, right? In the old days. The Queen appoints the Governor General. That's the monarchies involved. There's the Executive Council. They're like the checks and balances. And then there's the House of Assembly, or the House of Representatives, they call it. And then they've got a Senate, or a Legislative Assembly. So there's 151 members in there. It's meant to be transparent. It's meant to be voted. Everything is voted in. These are representatives of all the states and the federal departments. And then you've got the department heads, public servants, police, courts, judiciary, federal and state. Queen appoints the governor. Like the royal seal, right? So up until about 1930, the Queen was appointing the Governor General. They were all lords and what have you for Australia. And then it started to sway. And then I think it was John Curtin, around there. Then they started to have more influence in who was going to be governor in Australia. See, it's suspicious already, right? So if you go back to 1900, okay, we've got the Treaty of Versailles, 1919. That's Billy Hughes. Now, in that treaty, he had said that no foreign laws were allowed in Australia based on the ordinary man. So the Nuremberg Code doesn't apply. I would beg to argue that we are more global now, and ordinary man would constitute that as pretty standard. We are all ordinary men and women. There's the Royal Commission Act of 1902. That's the seal. You know, they're all by the Queen. We've got the Defence Act of 1903, same royal seal. Crimes Act 1914, same royal seal. They wrote another constitution in 1910. No vote. Okay. See, because in 1922, the upper house of Parliament walk out. That's in Queensland. They're still out. So they've had no upper house. Upper house is up here, like the Executive Council, right? So you've got all the state representatives, what have you. 1934, the name of Commonwealth of Australia, the business name, was registered at the Federal Reserve in America. So they were already planning it from back then. So if you think about the timing, right? So the Federal Reserve opened up 1913, 1912 the Titanic sank. You know, you've got the Rothschilds, you've got the exchange changing over. There's a lot of things going on back then. All right, so Warehouse-Lehenne Act, 1952. Yeah. ScoMo refers to the so-called Queen of Australia as Her Majesty. The Citizenship Act of 1948. So they get down to here, right? So again, they've been planning it. So the Queen, all right, 1952, she becomes the Queen. By 1953, they're already starting to fly the blue corporate flag. And they only fly the blue flag when Parliament is in. All right, Menzies started doing that. In 1961, the Anglican Church are in Queensland. By 1957, the Queen's speech, she's telling us, I can't help you anymore. So all the wealth of Australia is in the Consolidated Revenue Fund. It's held to the land. Banking Act 1959, Atomic Energy Act 1946, Police Constables connected to that, Police Service Companies Act 1948. So again, I'm just saying they're planning this all along, and then they get up to like the 11th of February 1966. Everyone resigns from their positions, like every single member of government resign, and they sign private person-to-person de facto contracts with a private corporation, namely the Commonwealth of Australia. They privately signed legislation, namely the Decimal Currency Act, 1966. Here it is, 1965. So they'd already written one the year before, Currency Act, in preparation for the Decimal Currency Act of 1966. Now, there are 7 heads of state that signed that document. I think they all are guilty of treason. Right? And any of their family members that are benefiting off any of that money that they made, he's removing. Royal Styles and Titles Act, 1973. Now, they get down here. So what they did is they made their own private seal. So the Queen can't acknowledge this because it's not government. It's not proper. It's not under the Partnership Act. They're under the Wastelands Act. All right? So they created this new seal. Now, granted, none of this was sworn in up here. So this wasn't sworn in either. And sworn in is that the people vote, and then the Queen signs her name to it, puts the royal seal on it, and gives it authority or power. The Queen wouldn't sign it. Right, so there's their business number right there. It's a private foreign entity. It's called the firm. They created a duplicate government. So it's like layer by layer they snuck their way out. But get this, see this seal here, this rat and the chook. Oh look, it's the kangaroo and the emu. I was a kid when they brought this in, and I remember feeling, oh, really proud, like we're a republic, oh, we're Australian, oh, that's so awesome. We were more worried about boat races and Alan Bond than we were about what those dodgy bastards were doing in Parliament. So they went, look, they jumped in a time capsule, get this, and they went back in time, and whoop, oh, there we go. Royal Commission Act of 1902 suddenly has a rat and a chook on there. And so does the Commonwealth Electoral Act of 1918. And they did it with the Citizenship Act as well. So they've just gone back in time and they've just changed documents. I think they call that fraud. Anyway. So the Unidroit Treaty was the one that actually completely destroyed this country. Gough Whitlam. So 98% of industry is gone. 1966 Pine Gap was signed. Because the Queen wouldn't agree to all of this, right, they decided to write their own legislation. So they rewrote Royal Styles and Titles Act, 1973, and they put their little logo on there. And the Queen came over for a visit, and they called it her first royal tour of Queen of Australia. She'd already been here in like 1953 after she got coronated to go around and say hello to all of her Commonwealth subjects. And she was seen signing it, but she signed it at the top of the document, not at the bottom, so it doesn't count. And they started building a new corporate headquarters. So by 1988, they'd moved into their new little headquarters in Canberra. They'd created another territory. Lima Agreement was pretty bad too. They wrote Aboriginal Land Trust Act, and they look at this. So they've got a royal seal on there, right, like a proper seal, but they've got the wrong name. It's all spelt wrong. Elizabeth A. 22 II Regina. Regina. It's like smoke and mirrors. And then, of course, all this other crap rolled out. Governor General Act 1974, Ratnachuk. Family Law Act, an abomination of hell. Federal Police Act 1979. It's embarrassing, actually. Australia Act. Now, there's two versions of the Australia Act. One for the people, one for them. And then, you know, it's like the Queen is also a business. So she can only register companies, not corporations, so that they can declare bankruptcy and just move on and no one can take any personal hit over it. Her Majesty Queen of Australia, first royal tour. It's actually held to the 1953. Government Business Enterprises Act, another abomination, 1988. Miscellaneous reforms. They don't need a seal. So Corporations Act 2001, they removed their need to have a seal on any of the legislation. So they're writing their own legislation to cover their own legislation. So it's not even like they're even impersonating themselves anymore. They're just like, we've told you what we're doing and you haven't caught us. The Electronic Transactions Act 1999, that's how they communicate with each other. Corporations Act 2001. So when a law says be it enacted, it means it's bullshit. Pine Gap 2004. Lisbon Agreement 2007. Fair Work Act 2013. It's like that little video of the cat. Sorry, shouldn't have. Letters patent went missing in 1984. It was in John Kerr's bedside table, so his family have got it. By 1985, USA owned all the courts here anyway. 1978, Queen says, I now hand over the affairs of Australia to the people. They've put us $7.7 trillion in debt. The political party, so the private corporation called the Firm, have set it up so that you have to be a member of the Liberal Party. So it says that the only people that can vote for them are members of the Liberal Party. Not you lot, they're all registered for citizenship. That's just you agreeing to all this bullshit that they're doing. It's actually really bad. But look, here's the deal. We don't want chaos. We don't want collapse. How do we eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So, oh yeah, it keeps going. Look, here we go. Judges Pension Act 1968. Now, it states very clearly that any of the judges have to be paid from the original money, like the pounds and shillings. So they basically registered their own private government and they created their own private money, which is the Australian dollar. And like one weekend, everyone resigned. They signed all the contracts, and by Monday, it was like, now the New South Wales Bank are writing out home loans and putting the money into housing over here, when it should be in the land. And they've written all these legislations to cover their butts. So that Judges Pension Act 1968, saying that they can get paid from, in the decimal currency and not be guilty of treason because it says in the Constitution and all the rules that they've got to be paid in pounds and shillings and dollars and cents. Statute Revision Act 1986, Statute Law Revision Act 1973, Crimes Act 1966, Lands Act 1994, Criminal Code 1995. They wrote another constitution. Actually, they wrote constitution in 95. And then they reprinted it every year and made changes to it every year since 1995. It's just ridiculous. John Howard got the wobbles in 95 and changed the definition of person. He added body politic to it. The governor in 1995 refuses to give Senate any information about Pine Gap. Why? Emergency Management Act and the Biosecurity Act. Can you hear the circus music going? And then COAG. Oh, it's got some ridiculous moniker. Basically, this is an agreement to hide the private person-to-person user agreements up here. So they've created laws to protect laws to stop people from, like the suppression orders. And the CEO of this giant corporation is ScoMo, right? And then the money, Consolidated Revenue Fund, digital currency, what's her name? Anastasia Palaszczuk from Queensland has her hands on that seal. But the great royal seal is sitting in a glass box in the High Court. Now, while all this nonsense going on over here on the left, we're over here on the honourable right, right? The government are here to execute the will of the people. It is the Consolidated Revenue Fund. It is the wealth of the land. Australia is number one on the planet for mineral wealth. Gold, silver, copper, bauxite, ore, copper, uranium, diamonds, gold. I think there is one mine alone in South Australia, Roxby Downs. It's one little mine in Roxby Downs. Finds more gold than any mine in the whole world. Dum-bum. Yet we've got most of our population living in poverty. Do you know when someone's... I did a law studies, I don't know, years ago, right? Did some time in Parliament. And I think I was like 26 or 27. And when I found out that the ministers of the states and federal get handed portfolios where they do not specialise in the area of the portfolio that they were given, I thought that was absolute madness. That's mental. Why would you have someone running a department that doesn't know anything about a department? It doesn't make any sense. Oh, then they've got to spend like hundreds of thousands of dollars with like advisors telling them, oh, it's just, that shit has to stop. All right. And then if you've worked more than a year, like in politics, Parliament, you get paid like that money for the rest of your life. That's your pension. So they're all invested in holding on to their pensions. That shit's got to stop. We don't need that many people. We don't even really need a government. Just need to learn how to manage yourself. It's going to take some time though. Got to teach people how to think again. To think about themselves. We are continental mainland naturalised Australians. We are the people of the Commonwealth versus the private political parties. We're not citizens. We are living men and women. The old Parliament House is still empty. I think we need to move back into it. So we need all the money, all this over here, all this greed to be put back into the land. It needs to be gold backed. It's held to the Royal Stars and Titles Act of 1959. She still holds the deed to the land. We do not hold a contract under this seal with this nonsense over here. The rat and the chook. All right? So the structure of government. So this is what that document that I was talking about puts you back over here under the Partnership Act. So I don't think we need a Prime Minister. I don't think we even need a Governor-General, to be honest. The Queen has abdicated quite clearly. I mean, you can have one another attempt at writing to her to say, Queenie, do you think you could put a governor in, please? Because we've been without law for 55 years. I don't think she's going to somehow. I think they pay her off, don't they? I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. Anyway, we need a governance that is transparent, that is honourable, that is done by referendum or vote. Do people even know how to vote? That's questionable, isn't it? The heads of departments need to specialise in the area that they're dealing with. So we have a House of Representatives. It's called the House of Representatives, and a Senate, and it's about 151 people. It's always an odd amount, so that, you know, like the Executive Council is 13 people. We want letters patent back so that we can decide who the judges are, because they took away common law with letters patent about who can be judges. So most of the Chief Justices, their daddies were Chief Justices, you know. It's the cliquey club. It's a mafia, basically. But there's not that many of them, and there's more of us. So, you know, our lands, our sacred lands need to be restored. Our land needs to be regenerated. We need to turn the boat around on the UNIDROIT Treaty and have our industry brought back into Australia. Our education, our schools, our universities need to have alternatives for people. Cultures need to be restored. Arts and theatre. Now, they've taken all the money from arts and theatre. They joined one of the departments together, like in 2019. In 2018, they cut $80 billion to services. So, sports, all the money to sports, SASI, all those people that all got cut. Gymnastics got cut from the program. Like the worst decisions you could ever make to do with even the stuff that they supposedly love in Australia. I mean, Australia's one of the only places where you switch the TV on and every single station's there's sport. Everyone loves to do sport from their couch. Arts and theatre have gone, you know, so that all needs, you know, like when you take arts and theatre and sports away from a culture, it kills the culture. And we have to bring Eleusis back too. So healing services and nutrition. We need to restore trade and industry. We need to bring back farming. We need to clean our water. We need to take back the media. We need alternative schools, green schools. So 12 and 48. We have the right to the freedom of speech, the right to the freedom of movement, the right to assemble with whoever we want, and the right to believe whatever we want to believe. We have the right to privacy, to face our accuser. We have the right to safety. We have the right to life. We have the right to liberty, which is freedom, happiness. We have the right to food and water and shelter and warmth. And we need to rewrite the 10 Commandments, but in positive language. You know, rather than, you know, do not cheat. You know, be a good husband, be a good wife. You know, don't harm people. Like, treat others as you would have them treat you. People don't care about people anymore. And the police are not constables anymore. When I hear stories of older police, sergeants, you know, you get your pips from the Queen, everything, we'd go back to the Queen. You know, there was hierarchy and honour. There is not that anymore. So, you want to be over here on the right. But, you know, you can file paperwork and that can make you feel more powerful, and you can keep understanding how to navigate your vessel. But it's your belief and your understanding behind the documents and the things that you file and the things that you say. And it's really lovely to see people come into their power and to say, like, no, actually, I'm not going to do this. It's not okay, you know. And it's only until we collectively all stand up and do that. And it's like we need the critical mass right now. And I know energy is low. We've got solstice coming. It's a big shift. Let's start creating the world that we want. So let's connect. I have made such brilliant friends throughout the world and their family. And, you know, we've got the warriors that know each other. We've got the people really starting to wake up now. Then there's people that we have to let go of. We have to take care of those that are proudly unpoisoned and learn how to let go and remain healthy. So your daily practice is really important, your movement, your nutrition, all of these things. I hope that helps. I'll do another mind map as more stuff comes in. I'm in the building of the websites right now to try and get as much information up as I can. And give me a percentage comment of what you think, what the percentage is in your lived experience, right? It can only be from your lived experience. Don't do it from what someone else has told you. Like when I go out, like everyone in my world is on the same page as me. So I'd say, It's 99%, 100% people. Oh, everyone are warriors. Everyone I know are warriors. But I go out in public and then everyone's like wearing masks and QR coding into places, and it blows my mind. It really does. Anyway, we need the numbers right now, so I can't believe I'm going to say this. Click like and share. Anyway, hope that helps.